Well, hello again, everyone, and welcome to our latest webcast that we're bringing you from Travel Weekly as part of our Roadmap to Recovery series. And of course, we did feel like we were getting somewhere towards a recovery. And then this weekend, I guess Friday it started, we heard the news about a new variant of concern, and it's obviously sent us into quite a lot of work that you've had to do over the weekend, and we'll tease that out in this conversation. But I've joined today by Amanda Matthews from Designer Travel, by Paul Cleary from Caribtours, and by Alan Cross from Jet2 Holidays. Thank you all for joining me. Paul, I'm going to start with you because you and I spoke last week and you were on your way to Cape Town and you're supposed to still be there, but of course you've had to scramble back. Tell us about your experience.
Yeah, no, exactly that. Went to Cape Town. We spoke on Tuesday. I flew on Tuesday night and felt incredibly, I was looking forward to it, very comfortable. There was no rumours, there was no gossip, there was no suggestion that I was flying into any sort of chaos at all. I had 2 incredibly happy days in South Africa. And then on Thursday night, local time, I was in Hermanus, having dinner, and I would have been in bed. Unusually, we got chatting to some people, so it was very, very late, which is, I think, one of the issues. All these announcements seem to happen on UK time, not with any thought to the local time. So I think it was about quarter to midnight on Thursday night. You just kind of get your BBC News alert saying what's going to happen. And then about 12 hours later, you hear from the airlines about it, of course. So, there was a scramble. I was one of the lucky ones because I own a holiday company. So I have experts that I can immediately phone from Hermanus. And already there was no availability. There was no availability trying to find routes home because all of the BA flights were cancelled, the Virgin flights were cancelled. So I was lucky and I could get an incredibly expensive flight for me and my wife and my 2 friends back via Istanbul the following day, and from Istanbul on to Manchester. Just to clarify, I don't live anywhere near Manchester, so it then started a 24-hour journey. But again, we were we were the lucky ones. There's so many people that we know who are stuck in South Africa, or not stuck in South Africa, but unable to get back in time to beat the 4 a.m. This very tight. You have to be back before 4 a.m. on the Sunday.
Yeah. So let's just be clear about that. This is what's happened. They've put, I think there's now 10 countries. It was originally 6. They've added another 4 onto the red list. So Paul, you got in before the quarantine in the hotel kicks in, but you do now have to isolate for 10 days and you do have to do a PCR test. Is that right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. So done all of that. And of course, you have this fear when you're in the air, when you finally get on your first leg of your flight back to Istanbul, you're worried that while you're in the air for 11 hours, that the situation could change again, and you could find yourself arriving in Istanbul, or as some people did find, arriving in the Netherlands. And by the time you land, their entry restrictions have changed as well. But yeah, so it was a scramble, but I was one of the lucky ones because I could call upon a decent tour operator to really get cracking and search for options. But I really feel sorry for people. I feel really sorry for people who just don't have those resources or who are maybe a little bit confused about traveling.
Okay. All right. So Amanda, let's come to you because I saw you on social media and I obviously knew this through you because you had lots of people away and overseas. And then the big problem was they sort of made half an announcement. They didn't give you all the details. So tell us what your experience was.
Yeah, so I think we were kind of watching the Prime Minister's update and suddenly the penny dropped with all these changes just about to happen. We'd already been dealing with the South Africa. We hadn't got anybody away, but we've got lots of people to travel. So although that was a short time frame, we've got no answers for those people. For example, we got a wedding going in the middle of December for I think it's £45,000. But we can't give them any information right now because, we've got none to give them. And then obviously over the weekend, we've got all these announcements seem to be timed at a place where you've got nowhere to go. There's no one to ask. There's no answers. Even when the Prime Minister was asked, when will this kick in? He didn't have the answer. So we're all scrambling around. And of course, what they forget is that all of those customers that are overseas, and Alan will have this much worse than we will, and all those that are due to travel, they are on the phone to their travel experts. And because we give such a high level of service, we are expected to have the answers. And of course, we've got none. We've got more questions than answers. So it all boils down to exactly what we've been fighting over the last 20 months. It's never the message, ever. We all want to keep everyone safe. It's never the message. It's the communication and the lack of respect and, understanding of our industry. And, at the beginning, forgivable. Now we're where we are. This has happened so many times. Grant Shapps should be the one saying, hold on a minute, these processes aren't going to work. All of these people overseas have bought a lateral day 2. All they've got to say is, if you've got one of those boxes with a code, go to the NHS and you'll be able to get one free. And then that's simple, easy. Then anyone who hasn't ordered it can order a day 2. But of course, you've got the other issue in that the day 2, now you've got to isolate, which is a new one because we've never had that. None of the day 2s on the private testing are set up for a quick turnaround because you never had to isolate before. They're all minimum 24, most of them 48 hours. And to be fair, so many get lost on day 2. Right. So it's just chaos. And it's almost unfair as the travel industry that we're having to take all these calls in a period where we've got no answers to then find the answers and make all the calls again. I mean, it's just unacceptable. Yeah. But, what more can we do to try and kind of explain than we've already done? We've lobbied everywhere, haven't we?
Yeah. So you were obviously having to make calls, or you were receiving calls from clients on sort of Saturday when we had no idea when it was coming in. Of course, we do now know, Alan, don't we, that it's coming in tomorrow. But that's quite a period. What did you have the same situation as Amanda, because you were sort of in the dark for at least 24 hours?
Yeah, exactly what Amanda's saying there. As soon as the announcement gets done, the phones light up, and we're trying to clarify exactly not what was said, but what the exact rules are, because sometimes interpretation is a dangerous thing, and miscommunication happens as a result of that. So it's getting clarification from not just our government, but certain other foreign governments as well, to make sure that the information we're going to give customers is correct. And in many instances, it's a holding statement that we're using to make sure that we give the right information on the first time. And that can be not what the customer wants. So I fully sympathise with what Amanda says, and we're all feeling it in different aspects of the industry, whether it's mainstream, airlines, long haul, or the travel agents.
Well, and I know that, Alan, because when I asked you to come on here, initially you were like, well, I want to come on, but I need to make sure I know. At that point, when I asked you, you were like still not sure what your position would be and what you'd be saying to customers. So quite rightly, you didn't want to come on here until you knew. So in terms of, you're obviously not doing the holding statement now, you're obviously now communicating with all your customers. What's the sort of general response been? Are you getting lots of cancellations, or what's happening?
Well, to be quite honest with you, the business we're in is about booking holidays. And as I said at my conference last week, the next campaign we're doing is Travel Made Simple, not cancellations made simple. We're fighting for survival, this industry here. So we've got to make sure that the customers understand, actually, there's not that much change from what you were doing before. My brother's going away on the 11th of December. He is going to the Canary Islands, and all he's going to do is arrange a PCR instead of a lateral flow on the return and fill out a different form on the outbound. He's desperate to go. He's no more worried about the in-resort experience out there, probably more so worried about the in-country experience that we're getting here now. He's desperate to go away another holiday, and that'll be his third in 12 weeks.
All right. Yeah. And sorry, I will come on to you in just a second, but it's fine then, just switch from a lateral flow to a PCR, but it's more expensive, isn't it? Is that going to put some of your customers off? Or
listen, there is going to be customers' confidence is not. I understand that. There's going to be additional costs in there, but this is the world we live in. At the end of the day, I went to Murrayfield the other week to watch Scotland getting thrashed by South Africa. I needed to be double vaxxed to do that. Things are going to change, things are going to evolve, and we need to appreciate that in the world we live in now.
Okay, Paul, you were just going to jump in then when Alan was talking. What did you want to say about?
Well, no, I'm just in agreement. I think this is The communication is ridiculous and stupid and ill thought through as always. But guess what? That's how it happens. This, for us, it comes down to this has gone from lateral flow to PCR, which is not welcome. But there are only 8 destinations at the moment on this red list, which is really inconvenient and sorrowful for those destinations. But all those other destinations remain open. And my number one priority for Caribtours and the agents that we work with is to keep people traveling and to communicate and help them kind of navigate their way through this extra layer. It is hassle. This PCR, it is hassle and it's imperfect. But anything that keeps people traveling, we're all witnessing, we're predominantly short long haul, Alan, but we're all witnessing this absolute surge in demand. October, November, December, January, February, we've never seen business like it. Our number one priority is to keep that business safe and traveling, albeit with this extra layer of complexity.
And the point Alan then made there, though, he did say it does dent confidence a bit. Have you seen that? Because you're right, we were all, or certainly anecdotally from what I've been talking to people in the industry, everyone was seeing a lot more confidence, a lot more bookings. It was going in the right direction. So have you seen a blip at all from your customers traveling long haul?
Yeah, so we saw on Saturday and Sunday we did less bookings. We did fewer bookings than we've done for the last 4 months. I think that's to be expected. I'll accept that as long as I'm not seeing cancellations and refunds. We're not seeing that either, but it's on us to communicate the sensible, clear, well thought through messaging to our clients, because we can't rely on them to get it from Mail Online or the BBC News Web. No, and that is the problem, because your average punter in the street who doesn't live and sleep travel like we all do doesn't fully understand it. Our parents, our relatives, our cousins, all they see is red list testing, whatever it's called, Omicron. Yeah, and it's our job is to keep this in perspective. It's our job is to keep this in perspective for them, because they're not going to get that from any of the media outlets or from government announcements.
Okay. Well, Paul said he's not had cancellations, Amanda, but I know you have had some for places like Lapland, where it has become impossible for some customers to travel.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a couple of areas. Lapland, we do hundreds and hundreds of day trips, and a lot of them are families, lots of teachers, where they go on a Saturday morning and they come back on a Saturday night.
Yeah.
Under normal rules, on day 2, it's not a problem. They can go out and about as soon as they get home. Whereas now they can't take a test until Sunday. They're not going to get the results until Monday. And therefore, they have got kids and parents who are teachers that have got to go back to school. So we have had a number of cancellations, not just for Lapland, where people cannot, if they've gone at a weekend to weekend, they've got no holiday left and they want to then change their holiday dates. The other thing, of course, that was thrown in over the weekend was Spain. That's an enormous problem for us, because you've got, at the moment, it's a 3-week window where if you're over 12 and you are not fully vaccinated, which in the UK you can't be, then you are not allowed to enter Spain or the Canary Islands. So again, for the next 3 weeks, we've got some families that have taken children out of school, but most of ours are going over Christmas and the festive period. But you try and say to clients, we don't know, you're going to have to wait 2 weeks before that to see whether that will need to drop. And we've got huge bookings going to the Canaries over the winter, where clients want to know what they're doing now, they don't want to wait for 2 weeks. So we kind of, as a travel agent, and I'm, and a tour operator that does multiple destinations, there are so many things being thrown in to try and cope with, that it's not a kind of one answer fits everything. It's different for each family. And I think the other biggest worry for clients is this whole domino effect. We've seen it so many times before. We know there's noises coming out of South Africa that this new variant is actually no more dangerous than the one we've got. We had it with Delta. It's likely that in the next few weeks, keeping everything crossed, that the vaccines will work and we'll go back to a little bit more of normal. But in this period, it's just the confidence of, I don't want to go away and have to come back. And even though we know it is unlikely, because it is only Africa at the moment, it doesn't help when you're trying to kind of, people have seen it happen before, haven't they? They've seen it unfold.
Well, yeah, and you're right. We've now got countries putting in their own rules about arrivals from the UK.
Yeah.
So you mentioned Spain there. You've got Switzerland wanting 10 days isolation when you arrive in the country, which of course is now threatening the start of the winter ski season for people flying into Geneva and going on to all those French resorts. So, it's a problem, isn't it, Alan? It's not just our rules, but it's the rules of the destinations that we're going into. I think there's new rules in Portugal as well. So how do you cope with all of that?
Again, it's just assimilating the information you're given, confirming what information is correct. And Amanda hit a very good point. Nobody knows what's going to happen until the 18th of December for the next step of this. But when you look at it realistically, it was very much travel when the announcement was first made. And if you look at the press, it's very much getting to the UK about requirements just to live our lives in general. I think the initial shock from customers, Amanda's quite right. I'm going away at Christmas, I'm going away in January, I'm going away in February. What's going to happen? It's really what's going to happen in the next 2.5 weeks. That's all we can determine. From there, from the 18th of December, we'll reassess and make decisions accordingly.
But that's going to be it's going to be too late, isn't it, on the 18th of December, to Amanda's point, for all these people who want to know if they're going away over Christmas or just
people don't know in this country if they're going to get the restaurant they booked 20 people at, let alone go on holiday. And that's the world we live in. As I say, I'm not being flippant when I say that, but the government make the decisions on the 18th of December. So how can we make decisions from the 19th onwards?
Yeah. I mean, you make that point about restaurants, and I think, I saw Miles Morgan, another travel agent, tweeting saying, why are travellers being singled out for PCR testing? Often they are in warmer climates and socially distanced. Omicron is in the UK, yet 70,000 people can cram into a football ground without masks or tests. I would fully support it if I understood the rationale. So I think, we've got to wear a mask, haven't we, from tomorrow on public transport and in shops, but not in the pub or not in a club. So I think
it's different. Scotland has been wearing masks in pubs and clubs and in, as I say, built up crowds, but we've never stopped so far. So again, it's what you get used to and what you have to.
But do you feel, Amanda, that travel is perhaps being sort of singled out a little bit here compared to hospitality or other industries?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're an easy target, aren't we, to show that, these are where these variants supposedly are coming from. But this has probably been in all over for a month now, I bet. And, unless you're going to close the borders completely, and countries that have done that have shown that hasn't worked either. We've got to live with this coronavirus. We've all said this, I don't know how many times. And I think that, I understand that if you're a contact of somebody that's got this new variant, until they determine what it's like, and what it's going to do. I understand all those, but it's like even the way they explain things, like the reason that we need to have a PCR test on day 2 is for the sequencing to determine how many of the people coming back from travel have got this new variant so that you can stop the spread. But that wasn't explained, and the way it's kind of explained, it puts fear into the travel industry in the eyes of the client. And I think that if for those that are making the decisions, if they explain more about why they're doing these things, I think it would be much more kind of accepted. But of course, you've then got the media who jump on it. The headlines are just a joke, and yet they're allowed to carry on making this into something that hopefully it probably isn't. But we won't know that now for 3 weeks. So I think our job, like Alan said, is we've got to stay as positive as possible. If this is the worst that we're going to get, actually, it's not very much different from where we've already been. We've got to get over this few weeks of people buying lateral flows and replacing them with PCRs. We need the testing companies to put on a quicker day 2, which is all possible. And I think that we just got to keep hoping that this whole domino effect, that's my biggest strategic worry at this moment, the domino effect, not just in this country, but across the world. And that is what
more countries will start putting more restrictions in. And and
because it's so unknown, and that that is what keeps me awake at night.
Yeah. And Alan,
I think following up what Amanda's saying there's a great opportunity for travel agents at this time, because it's the reassurance they give to the customer to say, listen, I'm the expert. That's why you come to me. I will manage no matter what comes along. Here's the situation now. If things change for the better or the worse, I'll be there to inform you. And that reassurance alone can just diffuse the situation.
yeah.
But it's like you say, the initial communication from the government compared to the reality, and when people stand back and look at the facts, it can't, it's not as bad as it seems at first.
And Alan, obviously, we were with you last week at your conference. You had lots of agents, coming together to hear about your plans, and there was a real upbeat. People were quite confident. There was a really good mood in the room with all your trade partners. I mean, what's been the reaction over the weekend? I mean, you say they've got an opportunity, but have they been thrown into sort of turmoil, or are they sort of calmly dealing with this and waiting for the information through from you?
After 20 months, it's amazing just how calmly and reserved the travel agents manage this, and it shows how resilient they've been all the way through. It's not. This is nothing compared to some of the shocks we've had in the past 20 months.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, two of the biggest things we were talking about was our customer helpers in resort, and that's more relevant now than it's ever been before.
Yes, people who were stuck out there and needed information to come back.
For customers in resort, and for customers going to resort to know that there's a team there waiting for them to help if anything happens. And also, as I said before, the next campaign we're doing is travel made simple with Jet2 holidays, and those taglines: ask me anything from the travel agent's perspective, ask the expert from the travel agent's perspective. Again, it's talking them through the steps, what to do to go on holiday and have a fantastic time.
Yeah.
What if?
Okay. All right. And Paul, you've got, great relationships with your trade partners. What have you been doing? Have you been
I think what we're doing at the moment is holding the line, which is just all of our destinations, these holidays can go ahead. We're going to be collecting balances in the usual way. We're going to be issuing tickets in the usual way. Now, we know from experience that isn't always straightforward, but we're holding the line while we're in this period of uncertainty, because the domino effect that Amanda is concerned about that's the problem. There's a bit of a vacuum. It is only uncertainty. It is almost certainly an overreaction. And it is almost certainly going to be okay by the 18th of December. Now, that might not age well, but that is my take on it, Luce.
We're going to go with that, Paul. That's what we want.
Yeah, no. Listen, I 100% think about it. But while we're in this vacuum, while we're in this period of uncertainty, it's countries Israel, not that anyone particularly cares, but Israel closed its borders. Switzerland have put this temporary quarantine in place, which will affect anyone transiting through Switzerland, which is every skier who wants to fly through Geneva to get to the French Alps. So these are really problematic, and that's going to cause a real crunch for the next couple of weeks. But I think we've all got the same priority. Caribtours, the airlines, and the agents that we work with. We not only do we want these bookings to go ahead, we need these bookings to go ahead, and we will not allow them we will use all of our resources to make sure that they can go ahead. But we're just a little bit worried while people, the Sun this morning, don't ask me why I have the Sun on my phone, but they called it a viral wave hits the UK as the 9th person, the 9th. That isn't a viral wave, is it? I mean, I don't know what constitutes a viral wave, but 9 people testing positive with this variant. And so that's what we've got to contend with. But for us, we're holding the line. The messaging is clear and simple. We're open for business. Caribbean is open for business. Indian Ocean is for as long as it is.
Okay. And Amanda, let's just come to you, because I saw you at Alan's conference and you were saying actually you'd had a really good period. You were doing some great bookings. You seemed really confident, but I know it's been such a relentless slog to get there. I mean, did you just head in your hands this weekend thinking, oh, here we go again, or are you sort of calm about it?
I think we're just very resilient now. We know we know what we've got to do. We've done it before. We get frustrated with the decisions, but onwards and upwards, and we have to carry on. we've had the best trading month, especially because we're homework based, so it's been a lot easier for us to recover. But even last week, we had the best last week was the best week we've had probably since, you know, at least, I don't know, 10 weeks, and we've been up on against 2019 for 6 out of the last 10 months. So we will carry on doing what we've done. We will look at what's selling. We might not be trying to sell what's going in the next 3 weeks now. We'll move a bit further out, but we're always looking for the opportunities of what is there to sell. And I think, as Alan said, we have embraced this as a travel agent from day one. And, you know, you either buried your head in the sand and hope it would go away, or you had to take it and tackle it full on. And that's what we have done since day one, and we will continue to do and support our home workers to do, because we've now got relationships with our clients and new clients like we've never had before. We've got really loyal clients who recommend us to their friends and family. And so when this all does become more normal, and I have no idea when that will be, you know, I cannot wait to see our full year impact of the work that we've had to do to stay with our head above the ground and to keep saying, you know, I always say you can't change what you can't change. There's no point in even trying. You can't. It's how you decide to kind of adapt to that and react to it is what will keep you sane. And no matter how much you don't like it, you've just got to get on and on. And that's what we've done. We've contacted all of our clients and resort over the weekend. We've got everyone waiting to be called, and you've just got to go into operation, you know, like that little elf that delivers all the toys over Christmas. We have to be that little elf every single day.
I like your little festive twist.
His name is.
Yeah.
Sorry, I forgot.
And this is not going to put you, because you're taking a lot of your home workers away on your own conference. This is not going to affect that. That's coming up, isn't it?
No, we are taking 68 people to Fuerteventura on the 10th to the 13th of December. Yes, we've got to have PCR tests, but do you know what? It is what it is. And I have packed my bag ready already. So I am going as long until they tell me I cannot go. We will be on that plane and showing everyone, you know, this is the way we've got to do it.
It's a leading by example. I like that. And let's give you the final word then, Alan. I mean, obviously you've got a huge operation, and you know, Amanda made reference, she's dealing with her numbers. Yours is at some scale, but you haven't had to change any flights or you know, where you're flying to or anything yet. Not the program hasn't changed. It's more a communication exercise.
Yeah, clarity, communication, understanding what he's done. But I think pulling together as an industry, and more so than ever before, we need to stay positive and look for the opportunities, not the negativity that's out there. And that's how we'll get through this at the end of the day, being one industry, being positive and making sure we make every bloody booking where it lies and making it possible.
Well, that's a good place to end on. I'm so grateful for your time today. Biggest revelation is that Paul Cleary reads The Sun, but you know, but I really hope this, you know, as you said, is an overreaction, and that we're back to normal on the 18th onwards. And I really hope wish you all the best for your businesses and your isolation, Paul. At least you haven't got to go and do the Christmas shopping.
No, exactly. Well, I'm one day in. I'm doing all right.
All right. Well, thank you so much to Amanda from Designer Travel, to Paul from Caribtours, and to Alan from Jet2 Holidays. See you again soon, guys.
Thank you very much, Lucy.
Thank you.